Hi, and welcome to our screencast for the Moiré Gobo Library for the Apple iPhone and iPod Touch. We would like to take a few minutes to introduce you to the features and functionalities of this application. Let's get started. When the application begins, we're taken to a list view that will look familiar to any of you who also use our Swatch application. At the top is a navigation bar. The center has a scrollable list of gobos, and the bottom is a toolbar with different buttons. The navigation bar currently shows the name of the manufacturer that we are viewing, along with a factory icon that allows us to change manufacturers. Let's go ahead and go there now. You can see the list of all of the manufacturers that we have within the application, along with the number of gobos from those manufacturers. To change manufacturers, simply tap on the name. Let's choose GAM. You can see that the navigation bar has changed. GAM is now our current manufacturer, as well as the list of icons has changed to be those from GAM. To select a gobo, simply tap on it. This takes us to the display view. The display view still has a navigation bar, but instead of saying GAM, it now shows the name of the gobo that we are currently looking at. And instead of a factory icon, it has a back button that will take us back to the list of gobos. In the display area, we have a large image of the gobo that we're looking at, along with two controls for spin and focus. We can grab the slider and simply change values. We can take the focus out as if we were taking the barrel out in a ellipsoidal fixture, or we can tap somewhere along that bar and have the slider change to the location we tapped at, in this case controlling spin. If we double tap on the image, we will change the spin direction. You can see the slider has changed now. Also, if we take the gobo back to 0, because it's easier to see this way, and bring it back in focus, if we swipe horizontally across the image, we flip the gobo within the light beam. This is indicated by the fact that the name of the spin has changed to be backwards or flipped. Let's go back to the list view. Down in the toolbar we have 5 buttons. They are Search, Recently Viewed Gobos, Twin Spin, Sort, and Information. Let's look at Search first. The Search view has a text entry area along with its corresponding keyboard, a Cancel button if we change our mind and simply want to go back to the list, and the results list that we can scroll through. To begin with, the results list has all of the gobos from all manufacturers because we haven't put in any search criteria. Search searches across all manufacturers. For example, if we wanted to look for a gobo of a window, we can simply start typing window and you can see that it narrows down the list as I'm typing. And if we scroll through here, we can see windows from Lee, Apollo, GAM, and if we'd like to look closer at one of those, we can simply tap on it. And it takes us to our display view. Let's go ahead and go back to Search for a second. You'll notice that Search comes back with our last search in it. If we'd like to clear that, simply tap the X. And then the other thing I'd like to show you is that we can also search by number. If you know the specific gobo number that you'd like to look at, simply type it in. In our case, let's look for 1131. That's the sun from Apollo. So we can narrow down very quickly to a specific gobo if we know the number. Once again, to view it, simply tap on it. Let's go back to our list view. The second button on the toolbar is the Recently Viewed Gobo button. This button works differently depending on whether you have the Swatch application installed and whether you've ever launched the Moiré application from Swatch. I have, so it's going to be a little different here. If you don't have Swatch installed, this will simply take you directly to the list of recently viewed gobos. If you do have Swatch installed, you'll see that it comes up and asks you which list you would like to look at. the recently viewed gobos list, or the recent color list from the swatch application when you launched Moiré. We'll come back to colors later, and right now just go look at recently viewed gobos. The recently viewed gobos list is a list of 12 gobos that you've looked at in the order that you've looked at them recently. It is a unique list, meaning that if I were to go look at bare trees again, instead of being the third item, it would simply be moved to the top and everything else would be shifted down. To look at any one of these, simply tap on it, and we're taken to the display view again. Let's go back to the list view. The next button is the twin spin view. This is probably the most exciting feature of this application in my mind, and I would like to show you a couple of different examples of using it. So let's go ahead and take a look at how it works first. When I tap on twin spin, I'm asked to select the first gobo from either the manufacturer's list, the search list, or the recents list. Or I can cancel and decide I didn't really want to do twin spin at all. Let's go ahead and search this time, which takes us to our search view. We can clear out our last item there. And in this case, I'd like to look for a spiral. So I'm going to type in spiral. And I like this leaf spiral. So we're going to go ahead and select it. Now it wants to know the second gobo and where I'd like to pick that from. In this case, let's select the recents list. And down here on the recents list, I have this tempest. We'll select that as our second gobo. As you can see, these two gobos have been overlaid. We still have two controls, but they're a little different this time. They both control spin for gobo A and spin for gobo B. If we begin spinning the gobos, you can see the moiré pattern that appears when you overlap these two and put them into motion, the namesake of this application. Also, the double tap still works in twin spin mode, so if I double tap, we change the direction of spin for both of the gobos. Flipping a gobo in the light beam still works as well. If I go ahead and swipe horizontally, you'll notice that gobo A is reversed and the spiral has changed directions. We can also change gobo B by doing a vertical swipe. You'll notice that now both gobos are flipped within the light beam. We can go ahead and put them back to the way they were. The last thing I'd like to show you during a twin spin is that the name of the gobo A is automatically put up in the navigation bar. But what if you wanted to look at gobo B? Simply tap on the label, gobo B, and now you can see the name of gobo B up in the bar. You want to see gobo A? Tap on gobo A. Let's go ahead and go back to the list view and start a different twin spin, this time with color. To use color, come down to our recents list first and choose the color list. The color list brings up the recently viewed colors from the last time that we launched Moiré within the swatch application. At the bottom of that list has been added Moiré default white. So once you've picked a color, if you want to go back to using white, even if you didn't view a clear color within the swatch application, the default white will always be at the bottom of your list. In this case, for what I'd like to show you, let's choose this Apollo Butterscotch color. Now at this point in time, the butterscotch color is available behind all displays. If we look at this picket fence, you can see this picket fence now has a butterscotch background. It's also available within twin spin. If we go back to list and go down to twin spin, and in this case I'm going to go to my recents list, and I'm going to choose that Apollo sun that we looked at earlier. And now what I'd like to do is show you what can happen if you put a gobo that's the same over the top of itself. So let's take recents and we'll grab the sun again. And now we have the butterscotch color behind the sun. What gets interesting is when we actually begin moving the sun, we get this great animation effect of the sun rays. If we'd like to speed it up, we can move gobo B in the opposite direction. Or if we'd like to slow it down, we can put both of the gobos going the same direction but at different RPMs. Kind of fun. Something that you can't do without having a box of gobos and a twin spin in front of you if you don't have another way of viewing all of these gobos in one place. Let's go back to the list view one more time. And we're going to go back to our default white color. And I'd like to show one more twin spin. We'll go to our recents list. And we're going to pick this large spiral from GAM this time. And once again, we're going to put it over the top of itself. So just like the sun, we have a pattern that's over the top of ourselves, and if we, over itself, and if we start it spinning, we get this animation effect. However, what I find is really neat about this is if you swap or flip the gobo within the light beam. So let's go ahead and do that. And now you can see that we get a pattern that doesn't resemble either one of the original gobos that we were using. Pretty fun stuff to play around with. Pretty useful for finding new patterns to use and project. Let's go ahead and go back to the list view and keep going on our functions. On the list view, the fourth button over is a sort button. This affects the list that you're currently viewing. Right now we're in numeric ascending order. You can see the numbers of the gobos continue to go up. If we click on the sort button, we'll change, and now we're in numeric descending, alphabetic ascending, and alphabetic descending. Just another way to make it a little easier to find the gobos that you're looking for. The last button on the toolbar is the information screen. Let's go ahead and take a look at that now. On the information screen, you can always find the version of the application that you're currently using. We also have one preference, and that is this dark background button. If we turn the dark background off, we go to a light background. And if we cancel out here, you can see that gobos appear as if you're holding them in your hand now, rather than being projected. Go ahead and go back into our info window. I prefer the dark background on, so I'm going to turn it back on. And then the last two buttons on this page either take you to the web page for this application or allow you to send feedback. I think this is the most important feature on this page, is the feedback button, because we take your feedback very seriously. We appreciate all of the suggestions that we get about our applications and incorporate them into future versions of the applications. So feel free to write us and let us know what you would like to see out of the Moiré Gobo Library. That's all we have. I hope you find the application useful, and I appreciate you taking the time to look at the features and functionality of the Moiré Gobo Library. Thank you.